Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about posterior teeth. Well, the first thing in posterior teeth we're going to be talking about premolar. Example, present characteristic and to which tooth it belongs to. Okay, so let's start off with a question from last week. Okay, it doesn't want to move. Give me a sec. Alright, here we go. Took it a while. Okay, good question. In the maximum intercrustacean, which anterior tooth is unique in that it contacts both anterior and posterior segments. Now, if you guys answered this correctly, the answer is maxillary canine. Now, remember, maxillary canine, when it's in maximum intercuspation, it's going to be located between the mandibular canine and the mandibular first premolar. So, hence, it contacts anterior and posterior segments of the arch. So, well, you need to know that there's no contact on the cusp tip. It falls in direct alignment with the facial embrasure between mandibular canine and first premolar. The anterior tooth is unique in that it has antagonists in the intercuspal position in both anterior canine and posterior first premolar. So just remember that each maxillary tooth is usually situated between two mandibular teeth. And if you just remember that the canine is situated between mandibular canine and first premolar, you would automatically know where the other teeth are in alignment. Okay, first we'll start off with mandibular first premolar. Alright, so this is a picture of the mandibular. The first characteristic we're going to talk about is the distal marginal ridge. The distal marginal ridge forms a prominent elevation on the distal portion of the crown and measures nearly as twice as the length of the medial marginal ridge. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, so this is the mesial part, this is the distal part. This is the distal marginal ridge over here. See how it's long over here? And this is the mesial marginal ridge. It's like a straight line. So obviously the distal marginal ridge is longer than the mesial marginal ridge. That's something you should know. Both mesial and distal marginal ridges have little or no contact in the ideal intercuspal relationship. So when you're biting down and you're in maximum intercuspation, usually the cusps that are going to touch the opposing teeth in the maxillary arch, while the marginal ridges, whether mesial or distal, are going to have no contact. The contacts are ideally on the mesial or distal to the fossa, which are found slightly mesial or distal to the marginal ridges. So this is the marginal ridges right over here. The fossa. I have other pictures in further slides that are going to show you even more. This is the fossa right here. Triangular fossa. Okay? That's where the contact is going to be. So the tooth, as you can see, it has a small non-functioning lingual cusp. It has a lingual cusp. So we're looking at the tooth right now from the lingual side. This is the lingual cusp. This is the buccal cusp. For this reason, the masticatory function most closely resembles that of the mandibular canine. Absolutely, because if you look at this from the back right now, how we're looking at it, you can easily say that this might be a canine too. This can be the cingulum, and this is the tip of the canine. So it kind of looks like it, except this, because the lingual cusp is so small that it resembles the canine. So the canine and the mandibular first premolar, or I believe it's first in general, they have the same function. This is very important to know. Okay, just keep it in mind. All right. Another thing. Excuse me. Okay, now we're moving on to mandibular second premolar. All right, here I highlighted it for you guys. 3 stars next to it. Until 400. That's what I want you to remember. When you hear mandibular second premolar. I want you to remember foramen. And here, I for you. Actually, we discussed this before, that the mental foramen is usually located between the first and second premolar. Ideally, if you align the second premolar with the mental foramen, you would find the mental foramen is located directly on it. So, when you take an X-ray, the mental foramen is usually misdiagnosed as a premolar abscess. Unless they already know the anatomy, they wouldn't have done that mistake. Therefore, before performing root canal therapy, make sure all diagnostic tests confirm the finding exactly. So if you have an abscess, or if you have something going on under the tooth, the root canal, you're gonna have some tests done, and if your tests confirm that you have an abscess, because there's toothache, there's an elaborated response with pain, then yeah, you do have something going on there. But if not, then you just know that, okay, this is part of the anatomy, this is the mental foramen. Performing endodontics on the tooth to avoid to occur that may impinge on the mental foramen. Exactly, that's another care that you need to remember when you're doing root canal therapy. So sometimes we do root canal therapy and we build the canal until the apical foramen. But sometimes, in some cases, apical foramen is either a little bit wide or the filling material is too thin for it to stop at the apical foramen, and it just overflows past the apical foramen, and it starts impinging on the mental foramen. And here, on the mental foramen, there are important that go through it. So pain would be experienced, and maybe numbness, like burning sensation. You never know. So just you have to be careful. Okay. The mandibular second premolar have three occlusal shapes. They come differently in each person. The most common type that you need to know is the Y. The Y type is 5 lobes, 3 cusps. Do we have the Y type? Yeah, I believe so. U-shaped, H-shaped. Okay, I can put a picture on it. I apologize. But I need you guys to know that so basically what you would see when you look occlusally on the premolar is that the embrasures inside are going to form like a Y. And that's something that, that's the most common type of premolar. I'm sure you have a Y type premolar if you look into the mirror. Just see what kind of premolar you have, if you still have your second premolars. H type is 4 lobes and 2 cusps right here. It's like a legit H right here. Okay. And the U type is 4 lobes, 2 cusps, central developmental group, crescent shape. So that's the difference between that and the H. That is going to look like a crescent shape. Okay. So the second premolar also has 2 cusps, buccal cusp and lingual cusp, whatever shape it is. And sometimes it might have 2 lingual cusps. Okay, in case that it has 3 cusps, like in the Y type. Okay. Okay, so now that we've covered the mandibular premolars, let's go on to maxillary premolars. So one thing that you need to know about the mandibular premolars, or the mandibular premolars, let's say, they both have one root canal. Okay. Now the first thing you notice here, I see, at least myself, when I look at this slide, I'm looking at the maxillary first premolar and 2 roots and 2 canals. This is specific about the maxillary first premolar. Oftentimes, both lines and pulp chambers are kidney shaped. Okay, so it just does look like a kidney. There are the only premolars with 2 roots. There you go. That's a specific characteristic to the first premolar. Buccal root and canal are the largest. Usually, this is a rule of thumb. Take it from me. any tooth that's going to have more than two roots or more, okay? Usually the buccal root and root canal are the largest. This is like any tooth. So whether it's premolars, molars, even maybe anteriors with exceptions, to root canals, the buccal root and root canal is the largest. Okay, just remember that. Premolars are most difficult to do root canal treatment on because they're easy to perforate, especially maxillary first premolars. Exactly. Okay, what do they mean by easy to perforate? Okay, so let's take this tooth for example. Because it's on the top part, it's on the maxillary jaw. The access is going to be a little bit difficult, not like the mandibular premolars or whatever mandibular tooth. You have you can look at it directly. But when you're performing anything on the maxillary teeth, you're going to need a mirror and you're going to have indirect vision. So that can be a little bit tricky. And you know, if it's like if the tooth is a molar and it goes all the way in the back, the access is limited. So you know, all these factors play a role, and it becomes a little bit difficult. So when it's difficult to perform a root canal on the maxillary tooth, you always lose kind of when you do a root canal, you kind of like feel your way through the canal. That's basically what you do. Sometimes in maxillary premolars, you can feel your way out of the canal, and you can just perforate. Understand what I'm saying? You can see over here, you have like a little bit of tooth structure that like can be easily perforated with your file, and you can just go over, and then you know you just miss out on this whole part of the root canal, and that could be a problem. So just be careful. Maxillary premolar roots occasionally penetrate. So the answer is the maxillary sinus. I put a picture for here, over here for you guys, just as a reminder. I'm sure you know what it is. It's just this triangular sinus shape that is right on top of. Sometimes it spreads between the canine up until the third molar, and it's just from the premolars to the molars. So just keep that in mind in case you wanted to extract the tooth. And right from left maxillary first premolars. Ah, this is important. Okay. So right here I put a picture of the maxillary first premolar. They're both a maxillary first premolar. Okay, and this is the medial side of it, and this is the distal part. I just noticed the difference between those two teeth in the anatomy. So there's a more pronounced developmental groove. A developmental groove is exactly the shadow that you're looking at right here. It's on the crown. And it's like a dip, kind of. Over here on the distal part, you don't see it. You just see like convexity. So right here it's called a developmental groove or developmental depression, whatever you want to call it. It's both the same. You can say developmental groove, you can say depression, you can say mesial developmental groove, okay, because it's only on the mesial part of the root surface, crown and root. So this is the distinguishing factor between the maxillary first and second premolar when you look at it on the mesial side, okay? The second maxillary second premolar doesn't have it, and the premolars don't have it. We're going to what other tooth has it. Okay. So when you look at maxillary first premolar, I want you to remember cervical or mesial concavity, which is the developmental groove. Mesiolingual development. This tooth has a pronounced cervical concavity on the mesial surface of its crown, correct? As does the distal surface of the maxillary first molar. This is crucial information for you to know, okay? So the maxillary first premolar is going to have this developmental groove, okay? And the maxillary first molar on the distal side is going to have this groove as well, okay? So that's a resemblance between both. Now remember, mandibular and premolar to the mental foramen, okay? So every tooth has a special characteristic. You just have to remember it. If you remember it now, you can remember it forever. That I promise you. Okay. So let's move on to the maxillary second premolar. It has one root, unlike the maxillary first premolar, which has two. Okay. It's much more symmetrical and less angular, which means more ovoid, than the first premolar. Okay. DBCR, which is distal buccal cusp ridge. Distal buccal cusp ridge is longer than the mesiobuccal cusp ridge. Okay. So the cusp ridge they mean is this part. Remember how we talked about marginal? That's different than the cusp. That's different than the yes, the cusp ridge. So the distal buccal cusp ridge is longer, while it's opposite in the first premolar. Buccal and lingual cusp are almost equal in height. On the first premolar, they are not. On the first premolar, remember we said that it resembles a canine because the lingual cusp is so tiny. It has no mesial developmental depression. First premolar does, that we established. Has a less prominent buccal ridge. First premolar has a prominent buccal ridge. Okay, that's good to know. It's less prominent on the second premolar in some aspects. Has a shorter central groove with more supplemental grooves. First premolar has a long central groove with minimal supplemental grooves. Okay, so that's another difference. So I just a little view for you guys to build a little bit of what they mean by the central groove, what they mean by the buccal ridge, and everything like that. Okay. All right. So now that we've discussed all four premolars, let's just combine them all together and see what's going on. So the mandibular first premolar shows evidence of crown completion at 5 to 6 years of age. Remember, it erupts 10 to 12 years, at the age of 10 to 12 years. So here they just explain to you that the crown formation completes at 5 to 6 years of age. It hasn't emerged out yet. It's still under the deciduous tooth, but because you still have the whole root to decompose, it can even start erupting, and that's 10 to 12 years of age. And the mandibular second premolar shows evidence of crown completion 6 to 7 years of age. Well, that makes sense because it erupts after the mandibular first premolar. So it erupts at 11 to 12 years of age. Okay. The maxillary premolar crown completion at the same approximate time as the mandibular molars, and it erupts at 10 to 12 years of age. Okay. So this is relatively good to know. I just want to stress out on the eruption sequence of the teeth and the age. That is the most that is the key factor for you to know. Okay. Let's compare. Since we compared between each individual tooth, let's compare in general between maxillary and mandibular premolar. What do they look like? What's the difference? Which crown is big? Which crown is all that good stuff. Okay. Let's start with the first one. For a proximal view, the mandibular premolar crown tilts linearly. Yeah, you can see it right here. It's tilting linearly, right? It's kind of like leaning backward. On mandibular premolars, the lingual cusps are much smaller than the buccal cusps. That's very true. You can see the cusp is almost not even there. And these are the buccal cusps. Okay. While the lingual cusps are smaller, however, they are only slightly smaller. Now remember, the maxillary first premolar has smaller cusp. The lingual cusp is smaller than the buccal, while on the second premolar, they're almost the same size. It's a little bit smaller, but they're almost the same size. So just remember, when it comes to mandibular, the lingual cusps are so tiny. From an occlusive view, mandibular premolars are more square. Yeah, you can see that. I think it depends on what shape of occlusal table the tooth has. Let's say they're more square, while maxillary premolars are more rectangular. Okay, because maxillary premolars are wider than linearly. Okay. The most common characteristic that all mandibular first premolars have when viewed from occlusal aspects is the buccal lobe makes up the majority of the tooth. So the buccal lobe over here, you can see it, like it takes up the majority of the tooth. So this is the buccal cusp right here, and this is the lobe. And it takes up the majority of the tooth, that's true, because it's way bigger than the lingual lobe. A lobe is one of the primary sections. So what is a lobe? A lobe is one of the primary sections of formation in the development of the crown of the tooth. It is represented by a posterior teeth, lamellons, and singular on anterior teeth. So a lobe on posterior teeth is a cusp. On the anterior teeth, it's a mamelon. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with mamelons, but I put a picture for you over here. Mamelons, you see this dip, how it dips like 3 times. You have like 3 big lobes over here. And that is a mamelon. And usually, growing up, uh, from childhood to teenagehood to adulthood, you we tend to lose our mamelons, either because scientists polished them and grinded them down, like in my case, or that they just disappear because, you know, of normal function, normal wear and tear of the teeth. Now, the reason why we have mamelons is it usually develops in kids who are mouth breathers. So whenever you see a kid, now all kids have mamelons, but the ones who do, you can tell right away that they're mouth breathers. So that's good to know. Now, for the last comparison, let's see. The maxillary first and second premolars are more alike than the premolars, which is true. Why? Because remember, the mandibular premolars, they have the different occlusal patterns. The Y shape, the U shape, the H shape. The overall shape is different. Just remember, the maxillary premolars are more alike than the mandibular. Unlike mandibular premolars, maxillary first premolar is larger than the second. Okay, so this is good. So what I want you to know about this is that has anybody of you had ortho treatment? If you have, you would know that the first premolars, maxillary and mandibular, are missing because that's the tooth of choice that the orthodontist would extract. The maxillary first premolar is larger than the second, so more space for the maxillary arch. When the mandibular premolar is on the point, the first premolar is smaller than the second, but it's still sufficient amount of space needed when doing ortho treatment. So usually it's first premolars that are extracted. Both maxillary and mandibular premolars have long axis, most perpendicular to the horizontal plane when the teeth are in maximum intercuspation. Okay. In other words, they are more closely vertical of all the teeth. That's also good to know. Okay, awesome. So I hope I didn't too much information for you guys. I tried to make it as simple as possible. Sometimes it can get overwhelming, but don't worry about just reading. You don't have to memorize it all in one day. Just keep going over it a little bit at a time, and I'm sure you're gonna get it. So I put a quick question for this. A hockey player comes into your office with both his maxillary right premolars in his hand. Which of the following characteristics would you not use to distinguish the first from the second premolar? Remember, you would not use it to distinguish the first from the second. Number of roots, symmetry, mesio-distal cuspid ratio, presence of mesiolingual developmental group, central group size, and supplemental group number. Okay, so this is it for this week. For next week, we're going to be starting with the molars, and I will see you then. Take care.